A Colorado man's mother goes missing. He spends years building up resentment and frustration with police, not getting anywhere. He feels he has nowhere else to turn. So he takes matters into his own hands, and the results of what he creates could help solve thousands of cold cases all over the world. My name is M. William Phelps. I'm an investigative journalist and the true crime author of dozens of true crime books. I've dedicated the past 25 years of my life to helping families of the missing and murdered. Join me. We're crossing the line. Well, we've come to the end of a year here on Crossing the Line with M. William Phelps. And I want to start by saying thank you for all your support. It means the world to me. We've grown this show over the past year, and I can't thank you enough for that. This show is the essence of what I do within the true crime space, and you've allowed me this platform, and for that, I am so very grateful. I have a special guest and show for you this week. This interview I conducted with a man who faced tragedy in his own life and responded by creating something to help is the perfect inspirational case to take us out of this year and into the next. So let's begin by allowing my guest, who has created something I think has the potential to change the way in which we investigate cold cases, like really change the game here. Let's let him introduce himself.
My name is Ash. I grew up in Colorado. I come from a family of Iranian immigrants. They came here after the revolution in the late 70s, settled in Iowa City, of all places, first, and then we moved out to Colorado. So kind of started off on the wrong foot because their lives were kind of uprooted and they had to start from zero, couldn't speak English. They mostly ended up doing okay when we settled in Colorado. So they turned everything around.
Ash and his family settled in Greenwood Village, which is located in Arapahoe County, Colorado. The city population was about 15,000 in 2020, so that's pretty small town America. Greenwood Village is part of the Denver, Aurora, Lakewood, Colorado Metropolitan District. Beautiful country. Breathtaking.
Greenwood Village was a pretty nice suburb in Colorado. It was right next to Cherry Hills Village, which is very prestigious, well-known community. I think Peyton Manning lives there now. And then Greenwood Village was pretty nice in itself. My senior year in high school, I went and we did a school project, and we went to the Greenwood Village police station, and they just didn't have much to do. And it was interesting because the chief of police said at the time there hadn't been a murder in Greenwood Village for about 10 years. So as far as crime goes in Greenwood Village, it was almost non-existent. It's still a pretty quiet, chill town. Lots of families move there. It has a really, really good school system, and, kids could be out at night and nothing really to worry about too much.
I asked Ash about his mother, specifically Shada, because everything that happens throughout the course of Ash's life kind of revolves around Shada.
So she was an amazing mother. Everybody in the neighborhood loved her. She had a lot of friends. She was very beautiful. She started our family very young. I think 17 or 18, she got married to my dad, which is pretty standard in, Middle Eastern countries. And she was always known to be very, very caring, considerate, loving. She started a daycare home very young so she could stay home with me and my sister and take care of me and my sister. My dad was out working. My mom was home all the time. That's all I knew. My dad wasn't really in the picture early on a lot. He was always working, workaholic. My mom was always home taking care of us. She was always cooking, making amazing food. And the daycare home kids loved her too. I mean, the running joke was they wouldn't want to leave the house sometimes. My mom took such good care of them. When the parents came and picked them up, they wanted to stay longer.
The elegant and loving way he speaks of her, I can recall knowing moms like this, mine in particular. These were special people who truly stood out in our youthful lives. I think many of you listening know what I'm talking about in that respect.
So all the parents loved her. All the kids loved her. When I was in middle school, all my friends loved going to my house because she cooked so well and the food was so good. And, you know, she always provided for me video games or whatever else, you know, love. In high school as well, everybody wanted to hang out there because they loved my mom. They loved being around my mom. They loved her energy. They loved her essence, everything. She was just like you'd have to meet her, but she was just such an amazing person that everybody wanted to be around.
As Ash grew, the cracks in the marriage became more and more obvious. His father being an old school kind of guy.
Lots of marital trouble. It didn't get violent physically or anything like that. Lots of arguments, lots of tension in the household. My dad and mom never, I don't want to say they never saw eye to eye, but my dad was gone a lot. You know, he was trying to provide for the family. He was a bit overbearing and controlling. You know, that's not uncommon in Middle Eastern countries. She wasn't having it. She was very passionate. She a little bit rebellious and defiant in certain respects. I think I got that from her. She would push back a lot, but overall she wanted to keep the family together. Eventually, when we moved to Colorado, you know, the cracks really started to begin to show. That's when kind of the family unit started unraveling a bit. My dad had started a business. He was at the business all the time. My mom was overstressed. I don't think she was getting her emotional needs met, looking back on it now, which caused what I perceive as a lot more stress and tension. You know, she was a very loving person, so she was always giving, but I don't think she was receiving enough back emotionally from the family unit or my dad. And she got a lot of respect and love for the daycare home, but you gotta wonder how, 20 years of taking care of kids, multiple kids every day, raising me and my sister, taking care of 6 to 8 kids, you can only take so much.
Now, I think I know where you might be projecting this one to go, because as I first met Ash and began to look into his story, that is where my mind went. The husband did it. But there is a twist here in that all too common Dateline narrative of spouse killing spouse we are so used to hearing in true crime. And I just mentioned Dateline, and I want to say that I got a note from somebody asking me to stop bashing Dateline. So I'm not bashing Dateline. I'm just pointing out the tropes that Dateline uses week after week. That's all. Enjoy your Dateline. Ash was around 16 when his parents finally split up and divorced. This was in 2002. His dad struggled with letting go. There was no stalking or violence, but he kept a close eye on Shada and the family. Without a husband, the kids in their teens, and basically able to take care of themselves, Shada starts dating.
She moved into an apartment about 10 minutes from where I lived. Around that time, a little early around that time, she was going out more. She was dating around more. And I didn't get along with my dad as much during that time because I was on my mom's side. So I was like, you treat my mom poorly in my eyes. I'm on mom's side, right? So I went to go stay with her And then sometimes I would stay with my dad because it was a bigger house. It was more comfortable and stuff. But she was going out a lot more, and I wasn't 100% sure who she was going out with, but there was like one guy I met that she was dating that was, I don't know, less than savory, I would say.
Ash is getting ready to head off to college, but what he notices is that the men his mother begins dating are not guys he would have ever thought she'd hang around with. But people change, and divorce certainly changes people in myriad ways, and not always for the better. All right, so she's meeting guys and, she's not meeting the best guys in your view.
No, not at all. Like, anyone who knew my mother would be shocked by, the guys she was hanging out with, so.
And these guys do they drink, drugs, that sort of thing?
I would assume so. I wasn't around them, but they just didn't, I don't know, man. They rubbed me the wrong way. I knew right away.
At some point, Shada meets a guy named Jude Peters. Remember this name. It will become important as we move into the latter part of Ash's story and how his life changed so drastically, which altered his path and has the potential to change the entire way we investigate cold cases in this country. Trust me on that.
It's tough to pinpoint. I'm still trying to piece that together because she introduced me to Jude. I think I was away at a small college in Colorado, so I was kind of blind from all this, and then I transferred to CU Boulder. When I was at Boulder, that's when she was really struggling, it seemed like. She was helping my sister out with her kids. She was spending a lot of time there, and then she soft introduced me to Jude at the time.
And what was your first thought about meeting him? What was your, intuition telling you about him? Just another one of these guys?
Yeah, I was just so confused. He was just not I don't know how else to say. He was not an attractive guy. He was really he seemed kind of shifty a little bit.
You were surprised that your mom would hook up with a guy like this?
Yeah, I think if other people saw her, that a lot of people would be surprised at that point because she had such a high standard, not in a snobbish way. I mean, we weren't super rich. We were doing well. We lived in an upper middle class suburb, but she had such a high standard for health and wellness and cleanliness. And this guy was almost, I don't want to say the complete opposite. He wasn't, I don't know if he was homeless at the time or what, but he didn't look homeless, but he was maybe 3 steps away from that. If you kind of looked at him, you can kind of tell intuitively, this guy he's not a productive member of society.
And so she starts dating him, and are you hearing any stories or what's going on with them or?
No, I know they're going up to the casinos a lot and Blackhawk. I didn't hear many stories, just kind of my sister just bad-mouthing him, what the heck is she doing with this guy?
You notice any bruises on her, any sort of odd behaviors?
She started looking, I don't know if disheveled's the right point, but she just really started letting her appearance go. And she was getting older. My sister noticed, I noticed.
Did you think she was using drugs or drinking or anything like that?
I had my suspicions. I never saw it, and we never really had alcohol growing up in the house besides a few bottles of wine for guests and stuff like that. I didn't really see her drinking hard or anything like that, but she just, looking back on it years later, I thought she was, because the way she was looking, her appearance, you can tell when people are starting to be under the influence, when you clean up and stuff like that. And I suspected years later, but at the time I was kind of distracted at Boulder. I was going through my own personal demons and stuff and partying, and I couldn't really put my finger on what was going on. And I was frightened by what was happening with my mom. I just couldn't put my finger on it.
Shada is a different person now, and it's shocking to her family. Ash begins to suffer a lot of anxiety, worrying about his mother.
Her behavior changed so much and it gave me so much anxiety, but I didn't know why just yet. I think I was handling it the wrong way. I was numbing out and I was disconnecting from her because in my mind, in the family unit, it was me and my mom. We were like, close. And when she started acting that way, I was like, okay, maybe I should just pull back. And, I would tell her, I'd be like, what's going on? She would get a job and then she would get let go. And then her parents would swoop in and try to help her. And then she'd move to a new place and then she'd move to another place. And then I knew some of that going on. And let's go rewind a little bit. So that first guy she ended up with, I had come back my freshman year in college. I was visiting my mom and we were outside of one of her earliest apartments or whatever. She had moved apartments, and the guy she had been with was, I found out, I was in the car with my mom and my sister. I don't remember how it slipped out, but it slipped out that this guy had beaten her, and I lost my mind, and I was trying to get into the apartment. I couldn't get into the apartment, so I saw his truck, and I dented up his truck, just kicking in the door and stuff like that.
By September 2007, Ash drops out of college and moves to Littleton, Colorado.
I was working at a Red Robin at the time. I was serving tables, just trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life next. Life was okay. It was looking up for me. I hadn't really been talking to my mom. She left a message on my cell phone about, I don't know if it was 2 or 3 weeks before that. She was always concerned about my well-being, so she'd check in with me and be like, hey, I got some extra money for you. And she said she had some money for me to give me. And then I didn't answer because I was so angry at her behavior and change of behavior. I called my sister. I was like, hey, mom left a message on my phone. She said she had some money for me. I don't really want to talk to her right now, but if she gives it to you, I guess I'll take it. So I'm on the floor at Red Robin. I'm serving tables. And then my grandpa texts me, and I don't remember the exact text, but my grandpa, he was the chief of police in a town in Iran. So he knows something's fishy. He has the sense. And I don't remember if he called me or texted me, but he was like, you need to call the police right now.
Can you imagine getting such a call? 1 minute, you're going about your life, questioning everything about your future, the focus entirely on yourself, and boom, everything you know gets thrown into chaos, and you understand in that moment, your life is never going to be the same again.
I knew right away something was wrong, but I was just completely shocked. And I told my supervisor, I said, I have to go make a phone call. Can you watch my tables? I went out back and I called my grandpa, who had stomach cancer at the time. He didn't have much time to live, and he's panicky. You have to call the police. And I was like, what's going on? Where? He's like, call Wheat Ridge Police, call the American Motel in Wheat Ridge. This guy killed your mom.
Let's take a break here and come right back. You are listening to Crossing the Line with M. William Phelps. Shada was living at the American Motel in Wheat Ridge, Colorado, with that guy Jude Peters I mentioned earlier. Ash's grandfather did not have solid information that she had been murdered. He was speculating at the time, in a state of disbelief and shock because he had not heard from his daughter in several days, and she was nowhere to be found. So unlike Shada. She was missing. So Ash calls the police, and according to him, they brush him off. Ash drives to the motel. He is preparing to confront Jude Peters and find out where his mother is.
I'm at the motel. I talk to the front desk. I don't recall exactly what they say. They didn't give me much. I sat there. It was pretty late at that point. I think I sat there for 2 or 3 hours, just kind of waiting. I didn't know what I was going to do. Waiting for Jude to come in. I was sitting in the lobby. I didn't see him. I don't know if he was in his hotel. Obviously, I can't get his information. I left after that.
By September 11th, 2007, with no word from Shada, her family files a report. And Shada is officially declared a missing person. She left her cell phone and belongings behind inside the motel.
So, this is what I found out after all this stuff came out. They had an weird off and on again relationship. My grandparents kept swooping in to try to save my mom. And this guy wouldn't leave her alone, like obsessively calling her. They would fly her out to Maryland. He would call the house nonstop. He would call her nonstop. He would never, ever leave her alone. Like, they took her to Iran to hang out with her family and her cousins. He got the phone number there. I don't know if my mom gave it to him. He was calling there. He was calling my mom. He would not leave her alone. And then it also leaked out at some point that he had beaten her up so bad that it broke her arm. And I remember seeing her broken arm at some point. No one told me. In Iranian culture, they like to protect the kids and keep secrets from the kids. So I was at my sister's and my mom was there. I remember her broken arm, but no one told me anything. So I found this out years later, and the DA was trying to go after Jude Peters and prosecute him, but she wouldn't cooperate. So classic abusive relationship. I don't want to, he's going to be fine, or I don't want to piss him off or whatever. So that was the first probably inkling that my grandpa thought that Jude would kill my mom, or did kill my mom.
With Shada missing, the reality of the situation settles on her children.
It just didn't feel real, man. It just, I can't, it's just like indescribable. It was just like so surreal. I just didn't know how to take it. I was just so confused. It didn't add up. It was pure anger and rage.
Were the Wheat Ridge officers helping you? Were they kind to you? Were they involved?
They were involved relatively quickly, within 2 days. Early on, I was very dismissive. I think about 2 days after, I got a call from a detective at the time, and he said there's probably some sort of foul play. And he was actually very attentive and willing to kind of work with me and listen in and ask me questions. So he was actually he seemed on top of the ball once he felt it was foul play.
They believed Shada was hurt because of what they found inside the motel room.
Yeah, so they found blood. It was confirmed her blood, but the way they described it, it wasn't enough blood to say it was a fatal injury.
A person of interest named immediately is Jude Peters, her boyfriend. The guy has a criminal history, including domestic violence, assault, and felony menacing with a deadly weapon. He maintains his innocence and claims Shada left on her own, citing previous instances where she left and returned. But police and Shada's family dispute this based on her consistent communication habits, especially with her father, Ash's grandfather. So a search gets underway. Police check the local casinos in Black Hawk, where she was known to gamble and to frequent. And they also reach out to the local Muslim community. But they keep hitting roadblocks.
They asked me to go on the news. I did media. That was surreal. We offered a reward. It wasn't huge at the time. I think we upped it at some point as well. There's no new information coming in. They interviewed Jude. Time goes on. They pass it on. They get some FBI help. They ask their opinion, and nothing's happening.
And I want to be clear, her body's not found. There's no sign of her anywhere.
Nothing. No body, nothing.
So years go by.
Years go by, no body, no updates.
And the case just grows very cold.
Yeah.
The best and most productive inventions throughout history were created out of necessity, a need. I think you can all agree with me on that. In Ash's case, being a developer, someone in, let's say, IT, he begins to think about how he can help solve his mother's case, but not only help his own family, other families as well. And what he comes up with, I must say, is something I am very excited about. Let's take another break here and come back so Ash can explain exactly what it is he's created. More Crossing the Line with M. William Phelps in 1 minute. When Ash sat down and started to research cold cases and missing person statistics, he was blown away by the numbers. And that research lit a fire, along with, of course, the tragedy of having to wake up every morning and face the first thought of his mother missing. Over the years, since she's gone missing, Ash tried everything, but nothing seemed to work.
There was a lot of anger, frustration over the years. And I tried most of the avenues besides going the PI route because I heard that's not the best route. I went the victim advocate route as well. I did some events. Nothing was happening. And listen, I'm in the startup world, right? In the startup world, they tell you, if you're going to work on a problem, work on something you think about a lot or every day. I think about my mom every day for the last 18 years. The investigations are very frustrating and, from my perspective, broken. So what I did, how I turned it into something good is I'm a data guy. I looked at the data. Okay, you look at investigation process. There's 600,000 people who go missing every single year. Only 50% of police stations have the resources to find them. There's 300,000 unsolved murders. The murder clearance rate has dropped to 56%. Only 7% of police stations have cold case units.
A lot of times, cold cases, like your mom's, remain cold is not for lack of footwork or passion, or it's in these cases, you need information coming in.
I want new information and I want a fresh set of eyes on it. And the only way I know how to try to figure it out and solve it is building something. So I decided to build something to take a new angle on it. Listen, I think it's a constraint problem and a resource problem. I think throwing more bodies at it or more human resources, and it's not doing anything. So how do you apply a new problem-solving mindset to unblock investigators? And I don't think investigators are bad people, but I think they're constrained by the current processes and systems that they're dealing with.
So, Ash, you do something in order to help move your mother's case forward and, in turn, maybe even help others. What is that you build?
It's called CrimeOwl AI. It's basically, I custom built it to solve crime faster with AI. And we have investigators using it right now to try and solve all sorts of different cases. And basically, I came to the conclusion, because it just never sat right with me to just sit back any longer. I'm not willing to wait another 18 years for this, okay? And one option was pooling money together and paying a PI who has no access to the files, and he's going to tell me what I already know. Or I build something that can not only potentially solve my mother's case, but solve hundreds of thousands of other cases, both cold cases and in real time, make law enforcement and investigators more efficient, and clear the backlog and help families bring them closure.
So now tell me exactly how it works.
To put it simply, if you have a case, let's just say you're an investigator and you have thousands of different files across dozens of different storages, you take all those files and you drag and drop them in to CrimeOwl, and it parses through the information, and then it extracts and links all the patterns and extracts all the data. So it creates a dashboard. So it's like creates a visual map of suspects and victims. It analyzes why those are the particular victims, what percentage chance those people are the suspects, how the victims were killed. It shows timelines, which is exactly what investigators build. The first thing they do is they build a timeline. It automatically does that. It shows maps, and then it has a chat where you can ask it questions and interrogate the case, ask the case questions. So what usually would take weeks, months, or years happens in minutes or hours, and investigators can start at a much further down the process point, which is extremely valuable for cold cases especially.
It's one of those ideas, in my opinion, that feels like someone was eventually going to come up with at some point. This is where AI can be a helpful tool, not a toy to play with on social media. AI can actually do the tedious work of sifting through thousands of pages of case files, forensic reports, suspect and witness interviews, and so forth, and specifically look for anomalies and bits of information every investigator has missed, but also connections in the case nobody had ever thought about. One of the only issues I see here with CrimeOwl is ego and self-effacing people willing enough to give this a chance. That will be the major obstacle. Because when you look at this tool objectively, it should be a no-brainer for investigators and police departments. In other words, it is not going to hurt to try it. The only pain might be from personalities exploding. Then there is the bureaucratic red tape connected to most cold cases, which Ash is running into with his mother's case.
Where we're at with Mom's case, I'm in contact with the detectives. They've been brushing me off. The last email I sent them, they ignored me. I actually had to call them. I've been pretty polite overall and pretty level-headed. This last phone call got pretty chippy, and I just told them I'm coming for those files. I kind of cooled off a little bit and then sent another email and sent some media that I was in the Colorado Sun, and I said, listen, I'm not trying to disrupt your investigations. I'm just trying to help. There's two ways I see we can solve this. You can either work with me directly with CrimeOwl and we can try and solve my mom's case, or I'm coming after those files. You got to give me those files. Simple as that.
So they're holding on to the files. They're not giving you the files because, quote, it's an open case.
It's active.
So you're going to end up having to sue them in order to get the files, right?
Which unfortunately could take years, right? I mean, I don't know how long that's going to take. They're not just going to give them over, so I just don't want to do that. So they're sitting on the files. I've talked to many investigators. They've already told me it's not an active case. They're just sitting on the files. They're not doing anything. The investigation process is passive. They wait for a lead to come in, and then they file it, and then they forget about it for 5 years.
There needs to be a change in the way we allow open records in cold cases to be shared or not shared. Granted, not everyone should be able to get copies of an entire case file in open cases. I get that. In these files, there's some protection built in there for a potential prosecution and other issues surrounding privacy and, more today than ever, what the public would do with an open case file. There's also information investigators want to hold back, so when they do get a suspect, he doesn't know what they know. But I'll say this, whenever you file a FOIA, Freedom of Information Act request, you need to outline your reasons why you want those case files. So in actuality, each case could be viewed separately and decided upon separately. Ash then makes a point regarding how CrimeOwl can help investigators within the same department as cold cases change hands over the decades.
If you're trying to refamiliarize yourself with the case, just go through CrimeOwl, look through the chat. It'll take you 30 minutes, what used to take you weeks of clicking through the files and being like, oh yeah, I remember that, I remember this, I don't even remember what I ate for breakfast yesterday, let alone last week. And I think a lot of these cases take that level of detail, but you can just pull it up instantly with CrimeOwl. I want to be clear on what it does. It's not an intelligence platform. So we're not harvesting data and then creating connections between different cases. What we are doing is every case is its own closed off, secure ecosystem. So it's not diluted from the internet in any way. You're not getting Reddit stuff. You're not getting Twitter stuff.
That's very important that it's confined to the data. And the data meaning what police, what law enforcement has collected.
100%. Now, if you wanted to add social media stuff, you just pop the link in and it'll extract it. But it does not do that. It only pulls the audio, video, PDFs, text messages, whatever else is in there, and then creates the dashboard from there.
So it doesn't go out searching for stuff on its own. Okay. That's really key, I think.
This is not ChatGPT. You can't build this on ChatGPT. We had to custom build it with the most powerful models that they can give you. We had to fine tune it. If you tried to do this stuff on ChatGPT, it drops information. You'll get blocked by the content filters because it's sensitive information. We had to apply for, special access to remove some content filters as well. So this is not possible on Gemini, ChatGPT, any of the consumer-facing models. It had to be custom built because there's too much sensitivity with the files. It's on Microsoft, which the government and law enforcement uses. It's secure, encrypted. None of the files can leak out. Other users can't access your files.
I am a big fan of this. I see it changing the way in which cold case investigations proceed in the future, and I can definitely see it reinvigorating cold cases police thought were unsolvable. But it will take some effort on behalf of some rather historically ego-centered institutions, many of whom have a really tough time with change. So where can you, the listener, find CrimeOwl?
So if you go to crimeowl.ai, it'll pop right up. I'm looking for any investigators who want to use it, investigative journalists, crime media. Those are the type of people, PIs, that I'm looking to partner with. We've partnered with some PIs who are advisors now. I'm partnering with Ellis Maxwell for the Susan Powell case. We have a few other people using it, and I'm looking to partner with cold case units across the U.S. We're talking to a couple of them right now, trying to figure out how we can work together.
Ash's mother's case remains unsolved. He is still fighting for documents so he can use the tool he created because of her to help in her case. Ugh, how much that must hurt. I feel for this guy and his family. That's it for this week. Be safe, be aware. Head over to patreon.com/MWilliamPhelps and sign up for my free content page. That's patreon.com/MWilliamPhelps. Crossing the Line is executive produced by M. William Phelps, LLC, and Matthew Valentinus, Mom's Basement Management. Written by me, M. William Phelps. Audio mastering and mixing by Matt Russell. Music by Epidemic Sound. Original music written and performed by Thomas Mooney, Tom Phelps, and Matt Russell.